we've taken 4 points off Wrexham now, who are a team are challenging for promotion with us. And like Chris Davis said in his post-match interview, you're not going to win every single game. So if you're not going to win, just don't lose, particularly against the teams around you, because it means that they don't gain on us. It's just another game, another awkward game for us. Ticked off and gone.
Also, Dad, look at their home record and look at the injuries we had. I don't think that's a bad point to come away with. So welcome back to BCFC Royal Blue. And yesterday evening, Birmingham City drew 1-1 with Wrexham at the famous racecourse ground. Now, in the end, it was actually a hard 4-point. But thank goodness this is all over. The whole Disney, NFL, Hollywood drama is ended, and we can both Blues and Wrexham can now continue with their seasons. But ultimately for Blues, we're top of the league, we're unbeaten in 15 games, and we take 4 points from Wrexham this season. Now, Dad, you predicted 2-2, so the score was wrong, but the draw element was right. Happy with the point?
I am. I said, didn't I, in the pre-video that I'll be happy with a point for this game and the Huddersfield game, because we've got to remember that they're two teams, including Huddersfield, that are around us at the top of the table. We've already beaten them, both teams once at home, so to get a draw means that we keep the gap between us and them, and they basically don't gain on us. I was really happy with this point, I think, particularly given Wrexham's home record as well.
That's exactly what I was going to jump in and say, Dad. I think when you look at their home form and the amount of injuries we had, I know you lot are going through the team, and I'll give you that in a minute, Dad, of our team. There was only one change, I believe, from the Exeter game. That was Dykes in the 10. But yeah, so when you consider their home form and you consider our injuries, Awata, Paik, Williamson, to name a few. Kesh Anderson came on, but he's been injured. Hanson's out. So we do have quite a big injury table at the moment. So when you factor that in and their home form, I think I'm happy with the point.
I am as well. I think you've got to remember that these are the types of results that I believe we'll look back on at the end of the season and say that was a really important point. I think also what you've got to remember is when a team, looking at your team, it's okay, wanting your team to go forward and to score loads of goals and to play lovely football. But the game's just as much about what you do when you're under pressure. And I thought we were brilliant under pressure. Every player to a man put in a shift, closed down. Our defence was solid and brilliant. And you can see why both teams have conceded few goals this season. Do you want me to go for the team very briefly?
Yeah,
just as a bit. I think it was interesting. We was all wondering, weren't we, about whether Chris Davis was playing a bit of a sly one by suddenly Paik and Awata appear. But clearly they were injured and they were out. And that was a big loss for them. We've got to remember that this result, this point, was without Paik, Awata, and Williamson. Kesh Jansen is back, but only came on as a substitute. So effectively, our whole midfield, you classed first choice midfield, wasn't there? But fair play to the players that came in. So again, no Paik, no Awata, no Williamson. So Dykes started at number 10. And by the way, I thought he had a good game. Chris Davis said in his post-match interview that he was brought on because of physicality, and I thought that was probably his best. There's more presence from him in that game, I believe.
I think in the first half especially, Dykes really put himself about. I think the second half, no one really painted themselves in glory, but the first half, I thought Dykes was good.
And I think that's why he's picked in the number 10, because as we know, Wrexham are a very physical team, aren't they? They sort of have got the habit of strong players attacking the ball, and we needed that, didn't we? So we need Dykes to compete with that. I think Luke Harris doesn't have that physical presence.
Although, Dad, I felt like it was a physical game, and Wrexham are a physical team. But maybe it was because Exeter tried to lump 10 shades out of us at the weekend. It felt less physical than I thought it was going to be, but I think that was because we had...
Well, Exeter was like a sparring game, wasn't it? You're right. I think it did prepare us very well for this, because Exeter are a physical team as well. So we had Stansfield and May. It was interesting when I saw Dykes was in there to have Dykes, Stansfield and May all starting. And I think that's unusual that you get all three starting, because what Chris Davis in the past has done, he's sort of rotated them a little bit. We had Taylor Gardner, Hitman and Leonard in the middle, obviously in place of Paik and Awata, and I thought they did well. Scott Wright was on the right, Stansfield on the left, also up in goal, and I'm glad to see him in goal, because we did have a few worries about him after the Exeter game, and he was brilliant as well. Laird at right back, Clara and Davis in the centre backs, and then we had Cochrane as left back. So on the bench, and a lot of people thought Bielik might come in for this, and I did as well, because of his physical presence, and he did in the end as a substitute. But he started on the bench with Grant Hanley, Yokoyama, who was never going to start this game, Yokoyama, and I think it was right not to bring him on as well, because of the way the game was going. I think that was a good choice. Harris, Yuki and Anderson were on our bench. And for Wrexham, they made some changes from their previous game against Shrewsbury. Dan Scarr came in at centre-back for Owen O'Connell. Tom O'Connor and Cleworth, who I thought was a really good player for them. In midfield, they had Matt James, George Dobson. He was in for Tom Cannon. Ollie Rathbone in midfield. Ryan Barnett. But Ryan Barnett, to me, he's a Premier League player.
Do you think?
I think he's a Premier League player in the making. Ryan Barnett.
He's a good player.
His supply.
I'm not sure I'd go so far.
His supply line is a lot of clubs are going to be interested in him.
He's a good player.
Hopefully, Wrexham, for their perspective, will keep hold of him. But he's a fantastic supply. I really rate him. I do. And they had obviously McLean on the left, Elliot Lee and Ollie Palmer up front to start with. I think that surprised a few Wrexham fans because I looked at their reaction when the team was announced on social media, and I think they weren't over enamoured with Ollie Elliot Lee up front. I think they wanted like a Jack Marriott or a Paul Mullin, but they were the starting lineups, and they had at the bench. I mean, when you look at their bench, there's a lot of firepower on their bench. You know, Mullin, Fletcher, Marriott. And Marriott didn't even come on in this game. So the team selections were... I think that both teams matched each other quite nicely in their team selections. I think Wrexham started with a 3-5-2.
Yeah. I think it was a bit of a cagey game, wasn't it? It was quite scrappy at times. And I think Wrexham played exactly what we spoke about in the pre-match video, Dad. They were direct. Balls in the box. That is their strategy, isn't it? They pepper the box with balls. Old school. I mean, some Blues fans on social media were taking the mick going, we're playing a rugby team. It was basically physical when getting it up the pitch as far as you possibly can. And I think in the first half especially, I think we had some decent passages of play. Like we played some decent football. We'll come back into the specifics, Dad, because we're going to have to get into some of the refereeing decisions and the goals and stuff like that. But we'll come to that in a minute. But I think in the first half, we played some good passages of play. But for me, one thing I was disappointed with, I guess, from a Blues perspective, and we've seen it a couple of times this season. It's not a massive thing, but it is something we have seen, is we adapted to the Wrexham game, I think, a little bit. I don't think we 100% played.
I can see why you say that.
I think we got suckered into the way they wanted us to play. We saw it at Charlton. We saw it away at Shrewsbury. And as I say, but I think that comes down to the midfield. I think we got suckered in because we didn't have Iwata and Paik controlling the midfield. That was key for me. And Taylor Gordon-Hickman and Leonard didn't do a bad job. You know, Taylor Gordon-Hickman put himself about again. You know, he was defensive. He went through on goal once or twice, I think, Gardner-Hickman. So he was all over the place, good energy. You know, Leonard had decent spells of passing, but there's just something about Iwata and Paik in the middle, isn't it, that just brings the whole team together. We don't get suckered into teams' play as much. And I think in a way, fair play to Wrexham because they kind of made us play the way they wanted to, and we got kind of stuck into that game. But as I say, that comes down to that midfield, and that's why I would have liked to have seen Bielek. I think Bielek might have made us that little bit stronger in the centre midfield. But let's get into the specifics, Dad, because there was a goal quite early. There was a couple of drama moments quite early.
But just on a general point, really, Wrexham are what they are. This is how they've been successful. You know, it's like you say, he's like a lot of love the ball and get the ball in the box at every opportunity. And clearly, it's worked for them over the last few seasons. But I think as they start to progress. So, for example, if they do get promoted this season and go into the Championship next season, I think they're going to struggle playing that style of play because at that level, it's a much higher level than League One. Championship is much better teams, much better players, and just lumping the ball, they'll just get teams will work that out really quickly in that level.
The way I describe it, Dad, is Championship's a lot more technical and League One's a lot more physical. So in League One, you can get away with a bit more set piece play, long balls, being very direct in the box. In the Championship, they'll sniff it out and go score at the other end.
They will do. That's what I'm saying. They'll get caught out a lot. That's what I'm saying. So Wrexham in this league, this is probably going to work for them because of the different standard. But if they were to get promoted, I think just lump it and then get some on the end of it. It will work to a certain extent, but not to the. It'll be much more detrimental because of the quality and the pace of the players in the Championship. They'll get in behind you.
Their game needs to evolve now, don't it?
Yeah, but at the end of the day, we knew what to expect when we went to Wrexham. We knew they were going to do this, and we, I think that's why Chris Davis picked a physical team to start with. So, I mean, the early exchanges were interesting. Like you say, when you said that we adapted to them, I noticed from the first 15 minutes that rather than Ryan Allsop trying to pass the ball at the back, he was kicking it long, adapting to them again. And I think that's a good idea, actually, because what you don't want to do in the early stages is be closed down too quickly and give a silly goal away, although we did in the end. What's your thoughts on their goal as well? Because do you think that Taylor Gardner-Hickman was fouled?
Yes.
Yeah, I do as well.
I think he went through. I mean, what made me laugh there, because me and Dad couldn't make the game. Tickets were scarce for this one, so we watched it at home.
1,200 tickets. Come on, Rex. I know you got a small capacity, but give us more. If we are playing you again.
Yeah, we are gold, so anything above sort of 1,500 we'd make. But anyway.
But Tom Magnan got a ticket. I don't think he's playing.
Someone said that on Twitter. They were like, "How can I get a ticket? He ain't been going to all the away games."
Fair play to him.
Really made me laugh. It was a good team there, by the way.
Yeah.
Good pre-match interview as well.
What was really, really poignant is that when he was interviewed, he talked about Leo Ross, the 12-year-old lad who who was murdered in Birmingham. And
stone's throw away from your old house, Dad. Our old house in Hall Green.
It's an area that we know very well because we used to live in that area ourselves. And and he paid a really nice tribute to Leo's family, and a very, very compassionate. And it was really nice to see. And I think that shows you that Tom Wagner is he's not just about the football; he's thinking about the community. And I think that meant a lot to the Blues fans that he would take the time to do that. So fair play to him.
Yeah, absolutely, lovely testimony, and thank you, Tom, for that. And back to the goal. So I think it was a foul, Dad, and. In the Sky studio, you had Clinton Morrison, who was the Blues perspective, and you had
Courtney Sweetman-Kirk.
But you had you had basically a Wrexham
Courtney Sweetman-Kirk. Oh my word, she was a nightmare, wasn't she?
No, but she was the commentator. I'm talking about the studio.
Oh, I think because we were exchanging messages about the commentator. Is she for real?
The commentator was shocking, man. It was so biased and unbelievable. But in the studio, when they were doing the analysis, it was Clinton Morrison, and I can't remember the two other blokes, to be honest. I completely forgot.
There was a guy, was it Ben Tozer from Wrexham?
Yeah. So, and he was saying no penalty, no foul, and Clinton Morrison was going penalty, foul. So you had the different perspectives. But
when they looked at it at the end of the game, though, if you saw looked at the analysis after the game, they also agreed that it looked like it was a free kick.
Even the Wrexham guys.
Yeah, it looked like he went to the back of his.
He did.
Knee.
Because at half time they were saying that Taylor Gardner-Hickman was already on the way down, and Clinton Morrison was going, no, it was a foul. He went directly through him. To me, that was a clear as day foul. Ollie Palmer's gone through the complete back of Taylor Gardner-Hickman. He's completely decked him. And he wasn't on the way down. He was shielding the ball, and then
it was a free kick.
The challenge put him through, and but what disappointed me a little bit, Dad, is what's the first thing you teach kids in football on a Sunday league? You play until the whistle.
Yeah.
So even though because we can't expect to get anything from these refs in League One. Blues fans, you know this now. In League One, we are not going to get a sniff. The referees are awful. The officiating's awful. I thought sometimes in the Championship the refereing was bad. Get me back in there because it's a million times better than League One. The refereeing down at this standard is awful. But two things, yes, a foul. But first thing is the foul. Second thing, play until the whistle.
Yeah.
Don't stop, because I felt like the Blues players kind of were waiting for the free kick, and then when it didn't come, they didn't put their all into that move there, and that was really disappointing to see as well. However, take nothing away from Rathbone. It was a good finish.
It was a good finish.
It was a good finish. Yeah,
fair play to him. Yeah. Obviously, regardless of the foul, it wasn't given. Therefore, the way he went through, I mean, we should have closed him down. But actually,
that's what I mean. They switched off a bit.
Yeah, it was a good. Yeah, I think if they had been switched on, they would have been a lot closer to him. But it was a good finish, and he went just to the left of.
He weren't stopping.
It was a curler. They showed a really good angle of it from behind. It was a really good goal.
It was a good goal,
and that was 1-0. Disappointing because I felt that we were playing some good passages of football. I think before Taylor Gardner-Hickman gives the ball away, I think Scott Wright gave it away previously, and the second ball was given away or tackled from Taylor Gardner-Hickman when he went in and scored. But that was 1-0 early, and it looked very much like it had the makings of the first game where they scored an early goal.
Yeah,
and then we would come back. We played some decent football. We got our equaliser not too long after, which is fantastic because it was from a set piece.
Yeah, was it Dykes? Was it Laird? Was it an own goal? Who's actually got the credit for that goal?
Well, they credit it to Dykes, but I looked at it as much as I can. It's difficult. It's almost like the goal we scored against Swindon. The ball's pinging around. Well, you can't even see the ball, can you? Yeah. All you see is just trickling into the net.
It looked to me like Dykes obviously headed it across. It looked to me like Laird got a nick, and then it went off the defenders back into the goal. That's how I kind of seen it in the end, but. We'll go with what they say. We did
that a few times. Obviously, they've been working on corners because Leonard 3 times played a long corner. The first time was the goal. Second time, he did another one to Dykes, who did the same goal. And the third one, Clara. Yeah. And Clara miskicked it. He could have wellied that in the ball or tried to sort of hoof it across. So they've obviously been working on corners. And one of the areas that we've said, and Chris Davis has acknowledged, is that we don't score enough goals from set pieces. So that will help that. Give us a bit of confidence to, maybe for the future. But that was 1-1.
That was 1-1, and then we come on to some controversial stuff, Dad. So just so we don't miss anything, we've got a handball to talk about, we've got a push on Taylor Gardner-Hickman to talk about, and there's a various other sort of decisions.
Well, I've got 3 handballs.
3 handballs, yeah, 3 handballs. I'm just talking about quick succession after we equalise.
Yeah, I think that again, this is down to refereeing again. Is that there was clear handballs in the area. And, the referee has not picked up any one of them. Obviously, we haven't got the benefit of VAR in this division. But if we had, the chances are that all 3 would have probably been given. And now, again, going back to Courtney Sweetman-Kirk, the commentator on Sky, she kept talking about, his hand's in a natural position or it's unnatural. What a load of rubbish. I mean, the ball was coming across, and clearly you can see on one of them, like, the arm goes toward the ball.
Yeah.
I think that, again, was staggering. And Again, it's just frustrating, isn't it? Because you can't handball it in your own box.
No, you can't.
But 3 times it happened. One in the penalty area just outside, on 24 minutes. Another on 30 minutes. It was headed by Dykes, and clearly hit Dan Scar's arm. And then May hit the ball again. I think it was a little bit later in the game. Clearly hit the hand of a Wrexham defender, and none of them were even acknowledged or given.
But what? It comes back down to consistency, don't it, Dad? Like at the refereeing at this level, there's no consistency. Like we see them given now, and Wrexham fans are going to have to put their hands up on this. At Blackpool at home, they got given a penalty and it hit the player's back.
Yeah.
And there was a couple of people in our comments going, no, that was a penalty all day long. It wasn't. It hit his back. So if that's a penalty...
Yeah, if the Wrexham fans are saying that's a penalty, then go back and look at those 3 incidents, compare it to that, and are much more obvious than that.
Compared to that one against Blackpool, all 3 of them are penalties. I mean, there was one which would have been soft, but there was 2 which were clear-cut for me.
Yeah.
So again, it comes down to the refereeing. But I mean, as we say, Dad, I think it's an important point to make. The referees are going to give us nothing here in this league. We still need to play until the whistle. We still need to carry on.
I think Chris Davis has alluded to that in his mid-season interview, didn't he, as well? Dykes had a good long-range shot on 31 as well. He controlled it well. And came up looping. He controlled it well. He looped it past the goalkeeper's left-hand post. It wasn't. I would say it was a half chance. It wasn't like a prolific shot on target. It's about a brilliant save, but it was still a chance as well. And again, Wrexham had a chance on the stroke of half time with a free kick. That's where they were dangerous, actually. Free kicks and corners.
We knew that.
We knew they would be.
We knew that.
But every time we give away a free kick, we knew you could see they just put bodies in the box. It literally is a melee, isn't it, in the box?
It's very old school football.
Yeah.
It's very kind of, when you look at the mid-90s, early 2000s, when teams were still just lumping it up and going forward, it kind of reminds me, actually, 80s kind of football, if I'm honest.
Do you know what? It is effective. If that gets you goals and it's working, then of course carry on doing it. But I think we were ready for it. And I look back at, particularly when we get to the second half in a minute, I'm thinking, look at this team, our team now, and think, we're fighting for everything, If this would have been our squad playing that game last season, we'd have lost by a lot of goals in that game.
Yeah,
we'd have conceded a lot of goals. So it shows you the mentality now of our squad and the way that they want to fight for each other as well. So it got to half time. I said that on that final chance, Wrexham hit it over the bar.
Just really quickly, Dad, because when the half time whistle went, and I mentioned this earlier, I felt at the half time point, Dykes was having a really good game. I thought he had a really good first half. Clara again.
Outstanding.
And
Ben Davies.
Ben Davies as well.
Yeah.
I think defensively, it was another decently impressive display because we kept them out. We were scrappy. There was. I mean, because we're going to get into the second half in a minute, Dad. Quite late on, how did we keep that one chance out? It was a corner. It was scrappy in the middle, and somehow we managed to hoof it clear. It kind of was a bit like Blues' goal. It kind of went in, came back across, and we kept that. But the point is, our defence is starting to be outstanding.
We've got players like throwing their bodies at the ball. We've got height that's just clearing it, and we haven't had that for a long time. In that solidity in defence, and I think that's what's really got us through this game. To be honest, I mean, first half we had 64% possession. I know Blues fans are all possession, but I think it's just giving indication that we did have a lot of the ball. We had 5 shots to Wrexham's 3, and obviously we both got a goal each. So we went in at half time. I put down good physical performance, and then into the second half, and there's no changes in the second half for any team. Both teams came out without making any substitutions.
But what I noticed, Dad, and I think this is a theme from this season, and I really want to get this across, is we're not clinical enough when teams make mistakes. So Wrexham played us in a couple of times yesterday. They gave us the ball really sloppily. They lost possession. I felt like they were tiring about 70-ish minutes, and they were making some mistakes that they weren't making in the first half. I think that came down to a little bit of fatigue in their legs, but we weren't punishing them. Keshy Anderson came on, and again, I'm jumping the gun here. He did decent when he came on. First thing he did when he came on was zip a crossing, and I thought we were going to score. But there was one where McLean slipped over or something, and Keshy Anderson went on the attack, and then it just fizzled out. It's like we were in the Championship last season, Dad, and a team I want to bring up is Ipswich. If you made a mistake against Ipswich, 9 times out of 10 they were going up the other end and scoring, punishing you. We don't punish teams enough, and I felt like we had a couple of chances yesterday. Whereas if we got forward in bigger numbers, we'd have really punished Wrexham and possibly got a goal. But we don't seem to be that team, do we? When we get the ball, we don't transition quick enough. The tempo's too slow.
Yeah, well, we had some chances, which we'll speak about in a minute, where really good supply coming in, and there was a lot of missed kicks or scuffs or stuff like that.
Not enough people in the box either.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
I think that it's the way Chris Davies set up the team. So obviously we know that they're an aggressive team at home because they can be, because they got the confidence. And let's be honest, they've done well over the last few seasons playing that style of football. So I think Chris Davies has had one mind on that, and obviously, but I think we had enough attacking chances. I think that on the 58th minute, Rice burst through. Squared it onto to Dykes, and he should have hit it, but he got closed down. This was obviously in the D, and that again, that's just bad decision making. So you know that you're going to get closed down quickly. So he tried to take a touch, and that's when you got closed down. If he did it first time, it would have been a shot. Very little service for Stansfield. I know a lot of people who were saying that Stansfield didn't have a good game. I thought they marshalled about the game. I think Cleworth marshalled him pretty well.
There's a few Blues fans questioning whether the wings is the right position for Stansfield at the moment.
But if you don't put him on the wings, it means he's got to be in the number 9. Then what do you do with Alfie May?
Well, I'm just opening Pandora's box. I'm opening Pandora's box. I'm firing it back to you.
Yeah, and I'm closing that box. On 62 minutes, he was a bit to and fro at the beginning of the second half. 62 also made a really good save.
Allsop had a fantastic second half, Dad. He kept us in that game.
Well, that's on the corner that came in. That's the one that McLean flicked, and what a good save! That's a good reaction save, that one, because they're the type of saves that are instinctive, and he's clearly done that. And that was a good save for McLean. And the last thing that Blues fans did was McLean to score.
He'd have been straight over to the Blues fans, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he would have. I know he gets a lot of stick and stuff like that, and he does. But it was nice to see that he was okay and he wasn't injured after the car accident and stuff like that. Just from a human point of view, and I thought he was pretty quiet actually for the game. McLean, he's normally giving it big, isn't he? But I don't know if he did in the maybe Blues fans who were there can tell us. Did he give you any stick during the game or at the end of the game? And also as well on that note as well, I had a few Wrexham or Birmingham fans were quiet. I heard them all the way through the commentary. So I obviously it depends. It's like us when we're in the ground in the Tilton at home. Sometimes we don't hear the away fans, but then we hear they're really, really loud. I thought for 1,200 odd Blues fans that they were brilliant. I mean, I could hear them all the way through the game.
It's hard to judge when you're not there, but it sounded like Wrexham and Blues created a good atmosphere. It sounded like the Wrexham fans were noisy, and it sounded like the Blues fans were noisy as well. Again, we weren't there, so we can't judge. But I'd love to know.
You get it in every game. Every fan from every club, some say, "Oh, it was brilliant." Some say, "Oh, you're the quietest people we've ever known," and blah, no atmosphere and blah blah. I heard the Blues fans all the way through the game.
What's the famous chant, Dad? 5 minutes in every away game.
It's a football alive. That's just boring.
It needs to stop.
It's really boring as well. Yeah, and away fans always sing because they're the minority.
Exactly.
And then they think, "Oh, you're not singing," and stuff like that. But it's exactly the same at every single ground, isn't it, as well? Yeah. So back onto the game then, and then we had this substitution, 65 minutes. Anderson came on for Scott Wright. And again, straight away, Anderson had a really good break down the right, and he put across the ball. But again, Alfie miskicked it.
Power of the wings.
Yeah.
And we've been missing something like that these past... How long's Keshi been out for? Since the Stockport game? I think
it's been a few games now.
We've been missing that dynamism on the wings. Yeah. We really have. And I think when Keshi came on, it showed me how much we possibly could do with a winger this January. Bring someone in who's fast and flary and... even if it's cover for injuries, even if it's someone who's coming in who's just got a bit of pace. I mean, Scott Wright looks a bit rusty, don't he? If we're going to be honest. I mean, don't get me wrong, he didn't have like a horrendous game, but there's moments of where he's making little bad decisions, and
he needs to instigate the turbo more often. He's got that burst of pace which he doesn't use enough, in my opinion. He did it a couple of times yesterday against Wrexham, but not enough. I think he's a confidence type of player as well. He needs more game time. But now that Anderson's back fit. It depends on how Chris Davies decides to use them.
Yeah.
On 60, a couple of minutes after that, Wrexham made a few subs in response to Blues subs, and they brought on Mullin and Stephen Fletcher for Ollie Lee and.
You could see Fletcher's experience, couldn't you? He was winding people up, but in a good way for Wrexham anyway. Like he was getting in Allsop's way. He was pushing people.
He's the perfect Wrexham player. He's a perfect type of player for their style of football. And when they came on, I thought, well, I was surprised that Marriott didn't come on.
Yeah,
I was really surprised to see him. Yeah, because Marriott's a good player. There's nothing wrong with Mullin and Stephen.
I don't rate Mullin as much,
Fletcher.
But
yeah. But then when they came on, as you'd imagine, Wrexham started to go even more direct. Everything was being hoofed into the box. And it would be when you got Stephen Fletcher in the box. It's like the equivalent of our Yuki. he's a player that wins most of his challenges, and he's a big player as well. He's not going to be messed around.
Experienced.
So they went very direct, but and then it really felt like lumping the ball football, then, didn't it? And we knew we were going to be under. And this is where I think that we've got to give our players credit now. They knew this was going to happen, and we really, really tightened up, in our defence and throwing ourselves at everything. They had a free kick on 80. Wrexham again had a few free kicks. That's another thing I was a little bit disappointed with. I think we gave too many free kicks away in dangerous areas.
In my opinion, though, it was bad refereeing.
Oh yeah.
Some of the players were looking for those fouls, and they weren't fouls. I mean, to be fair, at times it was a free-flowing game. To be fair, at times, but there was some decisions, and one of them was McLean on the left. No, sorry, was it McLean? So one of them just clearly got the right side of him. You could say poor defensively, you could say bad refereeing, whichever, but he looked for it, fell over, and I thought, oh, come on, it's such a... Stand your ground, don't let it go, don't give him the option to fall over. And the ref took the bait and gives him the free kick.
But Wrexham after that point, they really did sort of, I think their manager Phil Parkinson referred to it as like they like pinning teams in. Obviously just pound and pound and pound. And then on 80, Fletcher headed it back across the box. There was this melee in the box where our players were stopping it. They were shooting. There was about 3 attempts. They had 3 bites at the cherry, and we cleared it. That could have easily gone in. But from 75 onwards, Wrexham had a real go, and you've got to give them credit for that. I thought that would always happen because they're the home team. But you raised the point, which I think was was something we could be better at. When they're in the ascendancy, we need to make more of when we've got the ball up front because that opens up gaps for us, doesn't it? Rather than coming. But I felt that that Chris Davies made good substitutions. He obviously realised that they were in the ascendancy, so he brought on more physical players like Bielek and Yuki to try and to sort of match their physicality. Yuki came on for May in 82 and Bielek for Stansfield in 85.
Do you think for one of the first times this season, Chris Davies almost said, "Let's get out of here with a point"?
I think so.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good point. I know Blues fans think we should beat and roll over every single team, but this, as I mentioned in the intro, or my first comments, we've taken 4 points off Wrexham now, who are a team are challenging for promotion with us. And like Chris Davies said in his post-match interview, you're not going to win every single game. So if you're not going to win, just don't lose, particularly against the teams around you, because it means that they don't gain on us. It's just another game, another awkward game for us. Ticked off and gone.
Also, Dad, look at their home record and look at the injuries we had. I don't think that's a bad point to come away with.
Yeah, and you can't underestimate that. We had some real key players out and still produced that level of performance against a good home team. I think Wrexham will go through the season unbeaten at home.
Do you think?
Yeah,
and we will. I think.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, but I think they will based upon that. I'm not saying they'll win every game, but I think it'll take a really good team to beat them as well.
Where do you think they'll finish, Dad? Just a quick...
I think they'll be in the playoffs.
Yeah?
I think they'll be in the playoffs. I think that ourselves and Huddersfield are probably going to be the 2 promoted teams.
I agree.
Yeah.
And just coming back to the game, Dad, I know you've got a few little points to finish on. I felt like the last 15-20 minutes of the game felt a bit like Stockport 2.0.
Yeah, I thought that this morning.
Yeah,
I thought exactly was the same. That's a really interesting observation because it did feel like that, when we... Well, in that game in Stockport, we took the lead. We were 1-0 up, and they pounded us. I think Stockport are the best second half team that we've played at their place. They really went for it.
They had a go, didn't they?
But it was exactly the same. Balls into the box as quickly as you could. Yeah. Very, very Wrexham style. Maybe that's because they've sort of come up together, haven't they? And they're just used to each other. But
to be fair, Dad, and again, this is no disrespect to Stockport. This is no disrespect to Wrexham. This is just the way they play. It is an old school style of football. It is hoof and hope. It is get it in the box. It is pound, pound, pound. It's kind of like Chris Davies says. It's like breaking the rock, but we break the rock by passing it around teams and holding possession. They break the rock by quite literally smashing it over your head, don't they? By putting it into the box and hammering it.
I mean, do you know what? Like I say, it's been effective for them. Why would they change it as well? We had a chance on 91 as well. Taylor Gardner-Hitman went through. It was a driving shot. He hit it, but he just went past the left-hand side. Again, another half chance.
Good chance. But I thought for a split second when he left his foot, I was almost like, and then it swung the wrong way, didn't it?
It drifted away. But overall, from my perspective, I think it's a really good away point against a good home team near the top of the league. We had played really well in the first half, a lot of pressure, but I think our defence and the way that the team played in the second half was absolutely fantastic, and it showed that side of the game that I think we can't underestimate. I know a lot of Blues fans are saying, "Oh, we should be beating teams like this," but you're not going to win every game. And Wrexham are a good team as well. Don't forget the players that are missing that you've mentioned: Paik, Owata, Williamson,
Hansen,
and fair play to our players. They worked exceptionally hard, and well done to Wrexham as well. I thought they had to go. They didn't try and like a lot of teams do part the bus. They were never going to anyway because they were at home. But overall, I'm really pleased with that, and I think if we play like that against Huddersfield, we'll either beat them or draw, and that'll do as well. On to the next game, and like I say, my final point is that I'm really so glad, like you said, that's out the way now. All the hype around the game, I like the football. I like playing teams like Wrexham. I just don't like all the Hollywood derby. It's not the Hollywood derby.
No.
It's Wrexham Football Club versus Birmingham City Football Club in the EFL, regardless of who our owners are.
On the telly, Dad, they kept going back to that silly studio in LA or America where you can be in the stadium. I was like, it's the whole American influence. I get it, but I was just thinking, just make it about the football.
Yeah, anyway. But for me, well done, Birmingham City. Well done to the players, and if we can play. That level of football in terms of when we're under pressure with our flair, we'll be fine this season.
Showed a different style of our game, didn't they, which was great. But as always, Birmingham City supporters, we'd love to hear from you. What were your thoughts from the 1-1 draw against Wrexham last night? Did you think it was a hard-fought point? Did you think we deserved more? As always, let us know your thoughts in the section below and we'll get round to that. And maybe you're a Wrexham fan, maybe you watched the pre-video, maybe you've subscribed for a while now. Let us know what your thoughts were as well. It wasn't the most glorious game of football, but I think a point at the end of it was pretty fair. Hard-fought for both teams. And if you like this video specifically, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up and check us out on our social media channels. We have an X page, we have an Instagram page, and we're also on Spotify, so you can check us out over there as well. And if you haven't already, please don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss any future content, and hit that bell notification as well, just so you get notified every time we post a video. And myself and Dad will see you on the next one, all about Birmingham City.